Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Santos on Sports, along with my partner in crime, Mr. Chris Santos. I am Paul Santos. Welcome in. We're looking forward to a fun hour with you talking sports right here on Santos on Sports. First of all, let's thank our sponsors about Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street in the great city of Fall River. Citywide glass with 3 locations to serve you at 425 State Road in Dartmouth. Additional locations in Fall River and Taunton. Lakeville Athletic Club at 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville, where you can play tennis, pickleball, and more. And last but not least, our good friend, attorney John Seed, 156 8th Street in New Bedford, and you can check him out at johnseedlaw.com. Chris, how are we doing today?
Well, I'm okay today, Paul, but I wasn't over the weekend. That was a very difficult weekend for me. Saturday night, I was up at Scotty's Pub, and Notre Dame got destroyed by Louisville. Was not happy with that. Spinning around on Sunday, looking forward to Sunday night football, and we get destroyed at San Francisco. So 2 good teams that took my 2 teams out in a hurry. So congrats to Louisville. Congrats to the 49ers, who look very strong. Offense, defense, they really had it going. They showed what kind of team they have, and probably a team to beat in the NFC, no doubt about it.
Well, I got to tell you, on our end, people kind of know that I went down to Dallas to visit a friend, and we went and saw the Patriots get spanked. So then the thought was, gee, maybe they're going to come back now to Foxborough, play a home game and stuff like that, play against New Orleans, and kind of right the ship. And they looked absolutely horrible. And I'm looking at this team, and they've basically, I don't know if they've quit. They're just not coming together. They don't seem to be willing to really put everything out there to win the game. The offense is terrible. But, this is the thing that bothers me, right? We talk about the greatest coach of all time, and I don't want to keep saying it over and over again, but this is his team. This is his roster. So if you're such a great coach, how come you can't tell what you need to win? I mean, look at the Jacoby Myers mistake. I mean, why wouldn't you just keep him with him clicking with Mac? He let Tom Brady go when Tom Brady had more to give. He's picked bad picks in the first round like Cole Strange. Just one bad decision after another. How about the Cam Newton year? What a disaster. So people are saying, fire Bill, yes or no? I mean, we're getting to that point, aren't we? I mean, hey, it was a great run and all that, but aren't we getting to that point where we got to make a move?
Well, let's first go to your Facebook page, Paul, and I want to talk. Todd Marlin got in there and said no, but he doesn't think so. But he does need to be, doesn't need to be the GM in charge of player personnel. So I thought that was an interesting comment. Darren Costa came in and says, I don't think they fire him, but maybe take some control away. So kind of interesting what they're thinking about. We like him as a coach, but we don't like him as a GM and a personnel player kind of coach where he, what he's picking and putting in the ingredients. Now, that being said, Paul, let's talk about the 20 years when they were winning and Bill was picking these people. And Scott Poley was there and some other guys were there. And what happened to In Bill We Trust? What happened to Next Man Up? What's going on all of a sudden now that, we're turning bad. And the next thing you know, you want to fire one of the greatest coaches out there in football. I personally, I don't see it happening. I would be shocked if they fire Bill Belichick. Now, if they take away some control, that's a possibility, and get someone else there to right the ship and player personnel. That's possible. They brought in Bill O'Brien. They brought in all different kind of people. And before it worked out, now it's not working out. Their weak offensive line starts there. That's where they're the weakest. And then it goes from there. And they've been dropping ever since. No separation in the wide receivers. Now, of course, you have Judon and Gonzalez hurt. So that's going to affect your defense as well. There's just so much going on right now with injuries and never mind what they really lack. And, of course, you can put some on Mac. You could put some on the play calling. But I still think it starts with the offensive line to get this team right where they need to get themselves back to running the football, which they have not done well at all. So when you're not creating any offense, what are you going to do, Paul? Just stick the defense out there all day? and expect other teams not to score. It's not going to happen. And the Saints did it, and they showed that they were just better than New England. And New England has a lot of work to be done.
All I know is that when I look at that roster, I ask the question, who constructed the roster? Yep. Who constructed the roster? Bill Belichick. I mean, we have to call it like it is, but let's go to our phones because we got a call coming in right away. This is going to be a new caller. Steve from Fall River. You're on Santos on Sports.
How you doing, bud?
Good.
Hey,
you're going to fire Bill Belichick?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Enough is enough. Enough is enough. And the reason why is because this is, in my opinion, this team is horrible. This is the most horrible Patriots team I've seen in so long. I am a diehard Patriots fan, but when it comes to Bill Belichick, enough is enough. This guy, Mac Jones, is not a leader. He is not a guy that we can trust in. If you want my honest opinion, I think the ball should be given to Bailey Zappi. And I think Bailey Zappi should have a chance to lead this offense and bring us to a newer level. We're talking about Mac Jones, who played with Bill O'Brien in college, knows what kind of offense this guy runs, and yet you can't find any receivers. You can't hit any targets. You're afraid to run the ball. You stand there and let yourself get hit and pummeled basically on the field. Our defense, if it wasn't for our defense at the beginning of the season, a lot of these games we wouldn't have been in. I mean, yes, we had a terrible defensive performance against Dallas, but then again, we have to question the leadership of Bill Belichick, who has the roster, who knows what he needs, but yet he doesn't want to make the moves that we need to make this team a better team.
All right, Steve, let's get Chris's response to your very fun and entertaining tirade.
Well, no, I agree with some of Steve of what he's saying. Again, I'm not putting this all on Mac Jones. I'm not, and I never said that Mac Jones was a great quarterback. I never said he was a bad quarterback. I always said that Mac Jones was right now an average quarterback. A lot of people compared it to what Brock Purdy is doing in San Francisco. They said if Mac went there, he could do the same thing. I might have to disagree with that. I'm not sure. I don't think his arm strength is where it should be. I don't think he has time in the pocket. He is being pressured as soon as he's getting that ball, and that comes from the offensive line. And then you got to find receivers who can separate and get open. And right now, they're not doing it. And I think he's forcing things. I don't know if even putting Zappi in is going to make much of a difference. And we've seen Zappi in the last couple of games come in, and nothing's really generating out of him either. So I just think it starts with the offensive line. You got to get a run game. You got to get protection. Let things develop. And then, of course, you need the big playmakers, and they don't have that on the outside.
All right, Steve. Well, I don't know. I kind of agree with you in a sense that I really am getting fed up with Belichick. I don't know if firing him in the middle of the season is going to accomplish a lot. I think we kind of have to let it play out a little bit more. But you're getting to that point, aren't you?
Oh yes, sir. I mean, I agree with you. I don't want to say fire him right in the middle of the season. But I think if this team continues to do what they're doing, and you can't produce offensive line protection for your quarterback, you can't produce a running game, you can't produce your wide receivers to get available and open, then at the end of the season, when all is said and done and they're not a playoff team, they don't make the playoffs, it's time for him to go.
All right, Steve. Thank you very much for calling Santos on Sports. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
All right. So fire Bill Belichick. That is the question. Should they fire him? I mean, after these two just absolutely embarrassing losses, the greatest loss in Bill Belichick's history, which I saw down in Dallas. Then he comes back and the Patriots have their worst loss at home in the last 20 years or whatever you want to say there. So, again, the Patriots fans are a little ugly. I know Chris was spoiled. I know we're spoiled. We got a comment here from Don Andrews. Don Andrews says they had a chance to draft arguably the best offensive line in the draft, Broderick Jones, but they traded down to screw the Jets so the Steelers could draft him. They have no one on offense that scares the other team, according to Don Andrews. Ryan Pavo says Michael Tyler Venafro. You know what that means?
What did he say?
Michael Tyler Venafro. I don't know if that's I don't know what that means. Then we have a guy here, Lee Tuon. He says, fire Belichick. Okay. Barry Thompson says, no, keep him. Keep Belichick. All right, Barry Thompson, give us a call at 774.
Oh, wait a minute. Now Barry could not. Maybe Barry's not a Patriot fan. Maybe he's another fan and is saying, keep Belichick and let them rot. Who knows? I don't know what he's thinking, but it's possible.
Well, let me ask you a question, right? I know we've gone down this path before, right? But think about it this way, right? Where is Bruce Arians, right? Where does he land on the list of great coaches? Okay, Bruce Arians is, just in case you forgot, he's the coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when Tom Brady went down there with Gronkowski and all these guys and won the Super Bowl. Okay, so Bruce Arians isn't considered the greatest coach of all time, but when he has Tom Brady and he has some people around Tom Brady like Gronkowski and the different players that they had on the team at that time, he won. So, let's say he had Brady for 20 years. He only had him for 3. And he won a Super Bowl. That's a Super Bowl about 30% of the time, right? 33% of the time. Well, Belichick had Brady for 20 years. There's 6 Super Bowls. That's about 1/3 of the time. So really, I mean, that just tells me a lot. I know there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more pieces in the puzzle and all that. Now they're saying, well, Andy Reid's a great coach. Well, yeah, he has Mahomes. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have the pieces to win, So I think Belichick, when we say he's the greatest coach of all time, I don't know if he is. I mean, he's among one of the top coaches because he knows the game and he's a student of the game and all that. But then he was also fortunate where, say, some other coaches that may have the same ability as him, didn't have Tom Brady, didn't have the weak AFC East, didn't have things fall into place the way they did with Belichick. And so how can you really say who's the greatest of all time?
Well, that's difficult. But when he had the pieces of the puzzle, and it was Tom, and it was this, and it was this, and it was this, he found the way to put that group together and lead that group, as Arians did with a group of players that, if I compared him to any Patriot right now, it wouldn't even be close. Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, some of these players that he had, Gronkowski. I mean, think about if you put that with the Patriot players who are, in that lineup now, you'd say that's apples and oranges. So, you can look at it from that point as much as you could from each position and just go over it. But it's how you take, the greatness out of these players, put them together and make a winning championship team. And that's what Bill was doing. And when those pieces or ingredients are not there, then obviously he can't make that winning team. And to me, it starts up front on the offensive line, which has been awful from day one. There's nothing there that can go, wow, look at this. Donnie Andrews said it. There's no playmakers that you really get scared of and say, wow, this guy's a threat on the outside. This guy's a threat in the slot. I'm not scared of anyone over there. And even at your quarterback, until I can see Mac Jones with some arm strength, now, maybe able to thread the needle a little bit more, throw the ball downfield a little bit more. Until I'm getting more of that, I'm not really, not seeing anything out of this offense. So until there, I'm not scared of him.
Well, I had Zappy fever last year. I'm the first one to admit it. Yep. So when Steve from Fall River called up and said, hey, give Zappy a shot, well, I got to tell you, he came in those games in the third and fourth quarter, and I know it was garbage time and everything else, but that last game against New Orleans, I mean, he missed wide receivers. He threw the ball way over the head of Hunter Henry, who was wide open. Then he overthrew another wide receiver. I mean, he looked like, I don't know, he didn't look any better than Mac Jones. Now, for some reason, right, I hate to mention this, I hate to say this, for some reason, he was clicking with Matt Patricia last year when he won those 2 games. I don't know why. I mean, this offense is geared to Mac Jones, so maybe, he's having a difficult time, dealing with this offense that was geared to Mac Jones when Billy O'Brien came in. I don't know, but he certainly didn't look much better. I mean, would you take a chance? I mean, if he doesn't win, Mac Jones doesn't win this next game, the next 2 games are against Buffalo and Miami. So are you going to throw Zappy into those 2 games? I mean, that would be really tough. So I don't know. Would you give Zappy a shot at this point, or do you think you'd stay with Jones?
It depends on what you're thinking is in the long haul. Is Matt going to be the guy that you just trust and you want to stay with? And if you do and you want to build around him, you have to keep him going. He takes his lumps and then see what happens. Or you sit back and say, hey, listen, at the end of this year, we're going to start all over again. We're going to regroup. We're going to have to do this another way because this is not working, whether it's from up above in the coaching part or whether it's from the quarterback down, whatever it is. They have to see what them head coach and Kraft are thinking at this time. It's kind of early with, being 1-4. But if they get a lot worse, I think there's going to be wholesale changes everywhere at the end of the year.
Well, Ryan Pavo, the reason why he typed in Michael Tyler Venefro, we were trying to figure out if that was a draft pick that they missed or something like that.
Okay.
Oh, he's tagging a friend to join the chat. So,
Okay.
Michael Tyler, if you're out there, give us a call,
Okay.
or Ryan, give us a call. You see
go.
the number there, 774-762-6234. We really appreciate the typed in comments too.
Absolutely.
But if you want to take a chance and jump right in there and talk to us, we like that too. As I've said, Barry Thompson said, no, keep Belichick. Let's see. Dave Down says, no, do not fire Belichick. Get a real GM, he says. Get a real GM. So I don't know. There was some discussion about splitting up, the Belichick's GM role with his coaching role. I don't know if he would do that. Michael Tyler Renifro was in there, says absolutely not. He's earned the ability to determine his time and the manner of his exit. What do you think about that?
Well, sometimes, that's what that's about. He's paid his dues, Paul, and he's gone with his team for so long. Look what he's given you with all these championships. So you ride him out. And I think that's what they're trying to say. Let him ride it out as long as he can.
All right. We said for Ryan to call in, and Ryan did call in. It's Ryan Pavo. Welcome to Santos on Sports.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, good, good. How are you?
Good, I'm all right. I mean, I'd be better if the Pats were actually not the worst team in the NFL right
now. That's true. But Ryan, what would you do? Would you, what's your thought right now with Belichick? Fire during the year, fire at the end of the year, or don't fire him at all?
I mean, I think you fire him at the end of the year. I think I have to agree with my buddy Mike. He's earned at least to play out the remainder of the season. But I also am of the position. Look, you're brought in to win football games. When the whole Brady leaving drama happens, and Kraft had his dinner with Belichick, up picking Belichick over Brady, it was under the assumption that the reason the Pats have been winning and had this amazing dynasty was because Belichick was the key. But I think everybody in Pats Nation is not so sure anymore. So, I don't know if this is, him reverting back to his days with the Browns or what, if, maybe that's a topic for another one of your shows is the Patriots' success. Was it because of Brady? Was it because of Belichick? But I think if Belichick can't turn this around this season, it's time for us to move on.
Well, I've heard people say, hey, Belichick has lost his fastball. I mean, the man is 70, 71 years old. No matter how much you exercise and how much you stay in shape, maybe you're not quite what you were when you were, say, 55 or 60. But I got to ask this question, right? The Cam Newton year, that's almost 5 years ago now, right? So let's say he was 65, 66, far from being old by today's standards. And by the way, what about all those years before Brady? He was 45, 50 years old, right in his prime. And he was not that great. So I do think that this whole Patriot Way thing, I got to say, I think it's been exposed.
Here's my opinion. I think with Belichick, it's just a matter of hubris, right? So, Belichick has notoriously taken very little or had a very little hand in the offense, right? I think that's part of the reason we had so much success under Brady is because he trusted Brady to kind of run things. He trusted his offensive coordinators to try to, run things. I remember watching some, previous Patriots documentaries where, Belichick just kind of focuses predominantly on the defense because that's what he loves. And he just, trusted Brady and his offensive coordinator and just kind of let them do whatever the heck, they wanted to out there. And I think that this just level of hubris of I'm Belichick, I know what's best, I can get players for pennies on the dollar. I can just focus on, the defense. I don't have to get involved in the offense. I don't have to answer questions to the media. Like all these things, I think it's just a bit of, hubris, as I said. And I think, it's all coming to bite him.
Paul, we saw it with Tom Landry. We saw it with Don Shula. We saw it with Chuck Noll. It just gets to a point where, whatever you've been doing just doesn't work anymore. And, maybe it's just that time that you find your way out, or you just leave this situation and you try to find another situation that feels more comfortable. I mean, it could be that as well.
Hey, Ryan, where are you calling from?
Well, my phone number says Kentucky, which is probably why you're confused. But I'm living in New Bedford.
All right, so Ryan from New Bedford. And by the way, I just wanted to tell Chris, this Ryan from New Bedford, sometimes on karaoke night, he sings a little Sinatra, and he's really good. Maybe someday, when he's had a couple of beers, he can call in and give us a sample.
Yeah, be careful what you look for. Hey, before you let me go, if you give me a second, I just kind of want to give you my thoughts on why we're doing so terrible right now. I mean, I think you and all the other callers and everybody that's commented in has hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's plenty of blame to go around, from the coaching staff to Mac Jones just being terrible with his passes overthrown or underneath. But I think it all comes down to the offensive line. Mac's not getting any time whatsoever to throw the ball. This offensive line is getting thrown around like a bunch of rag dolls. I think a part of that is, like I said, with the whole Belichick hubris thing, it's, he's been getting lucky for the past 20 years, getting, players for pennies on the dollar, getting, a fourth or fifth rounder who ends up being, a Pro Bowler at the position. Well, you keep going to that same well too many times. You don't want to spend money. You don't want to spend draft picks on some, better players, and you get an offensive line that's basically, a sieve like we have now. I'll just kind of wrap things up with some stats that I thought, Trent Green, a terrible quarterback. I think he's a pretty decent commentator. He had some stats, I think at the start of the fourth quarter of the game that just absolutely blew my mind. New Orleans, their offensive line, of the 5 starters, they had 3 that were taken in the first round, 1 second rounder, and they were absolutely amazing. With the Patriots, we haven't had a third quarter touchdown all season, 30 straight drives without a touchdown. This stat absolutely blew me away. The Saints were able to put pressure on the Pats offense on 45.8% of their offensive plays to start the fourth quarter without blitzing once. They didn't blitz once the entire game, and they were still able to put pressure on 50% of the Patriots' plays. That is just an absolute indication that our offensive line is garbage. Be it Zappe, be it Mac Jones, or God forbid, be it Brady, I don't think any quarterback in there could do something with, what the Patriots have working right now.
All right, Ryan from New Bedford, interesting thoughts. It looks like you know your stuff. So give us a call again sometime. We appreciate it.
Sounds good. Take care, guys.
All right, thank you very much. Before we go to our next call over here, I wanted to get caught up on some of the comments here. Mickey Rockwood says Brady was a second string that Bill put in, and look what happened there. So that was a big call that Bill had to make, putting Brady in over Drew Bledsoe, because people that aren't old enough to remember, Drew Bledsoe was kind of the franchise quarterback, and you put the backup in there, and the backup is doing well, and Drew Bledsoe had the injury, got better, and Bill called him in the office and made probably one of the best decisions ever made by a coach by putting Brady in there. So there's that. Mickey Rockwood also says that the success of the Patriots is a team effort. It certainly was. Chris and I have talked many, many times about, they had an offensive line, they had a defense, they had special teams, they had Vinatieri kicking field goals in snowstorms and everything else. And Johnny Durant says, yeah, go ahead and fire Bill and replace him with who? That's an interesting question. Somebody said Harbaugh. Get Harbaugh in there, but we'll talk about that in a second. And here's a good one, Chris. You're going to like this one. Gus Barboza says, my son Logan and I are watching. My son Logan Barboza says hello to his gym teacher, Mr. Santos.
Yeah, that is true. Logan's a big Patriot fan. I've seen him, and this is a funny one because he's one of the elite few that actually show up to school with actually Patriots attire on. And it used to be all Patriots, from hats to jackets to shirts. And you don't see too much of that around here in this area right now. But Logan definitely does. And he wears it.
See that is being loyal in good times and in bad.
That's correct.
That's right. All right, let's go to another Ryan. Ryan's in Rochester. Hey, Ryan, you're on Santos on Sports.
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Yeah, good, thank you.
I was actually listening to the previous Ryan. That's a funny thing. We got two calling into the show now, and I love those stats that he brought up. But that Trent Green had brought up on the broadcast, like just the fact that the Saints were able to put that much pressure on Mac Jones without having to blitz. First of all, it just goes to show how nasty that front is with Cameron Jordan and company, Brian Brzee, who was also a first-round pick. But it also just goes to show how much of a sieve this offensive line is. And to answer the question, like I know you guys know my opinion on Bill at this point. Like I think the message has kind of grown stale. I would move on, be it unceremonious or not. Because and here's the thing too, we could say as much as we want that, just put an actual GM in there. Well, one, I don't know if Bill's going to be up for that. And two, even and say let's just say he begrudgingly accepts that. Is he going to put the same amount of effort into coaching? Or even you would think that, with just coaching on his plate now, he would put more effort into it. But would he? And the thing is too, his philosophies, they're kind of outdated now. And especially on the offensive side of the ball, one of the reasons why I would just straight up move on from him is, there was just a lack of evolution on the offensive side of the ball. And, the lack of evolution when it comes to his personnel decisions, sure, you can, prioritize character and fit and system fit as much as you want. But if guys aren't talented, they're not talented. So personally, I would just move in a different direction and go towards a more offensive minded coach.
All right.
I would only hold on to him if he's willing to evolve in any way.
So it sounds like Ryan from Rochester wants to move on from Belichick.
But Ryan, you still lack star power. You don't have it on an offensive line. You don't have it at wide receiver. You have an okay running back that you could go to. And you have an average quarterback. There's nothing there in that star power. So whoever takes over, if someone new takes over, they have to find something that can rejuvenate this team on the line and obviously on the offense, especially at wide receiver.
So what do you think about that, Ryan?
Oh, I 100% agree with that. And, I just think with whatever new regime would come in, be it a GM/coach or just a GM, like whoever takes over needs to be more willing to spend money, spend high draft capital, and know how to evaluate stars on really both sides of the ball. Like you look at it, the closest things to star power were the two guys who were just injured on defense, Judon and Christian Gonzalez. And maybe Christian Gonzalez can develop into one of the best corners in the league and be a superstar at that position. But obviously we're not going to get a chance to find out right now because he's injured. But that's 100% correct. You need someone who's willing to evolve and knows how to evaluate star power on both sides of the ball, be it free agency, through the draft, through trades, what have you. There just needs more aggression.
Well, I've heard people.
The evaluation process has to be better. And you've seen so many times, and Paul, you've said it in the past. How many times has Bill traded down an awful lot to say, hey, I'm going to give my 1 or my 2 and go down to 2 picks and 4, 2 picks and 5, 3 picks and 6. And he's done that for years. And there are times it worked out really well. And there's other times it's not even close. And I think he's at that point now. You can't be doing that too much and sit back on a kid from, Alabama State, not Alabama. It's like you got to come up with, some high quality schools right now and some talent up there and get them out there on the field on this team.
There's a discussion about splitting up the GM role from the coach role, and people have tossed that out there. I got to tell you, I don't think he'd do it. I don't know. I mean, to me, I don't think he would do it. We went through this with Parcells. He wants to shop for the groceries if he's going to cook the dinner. And then the next year he ended up leaving. And of course, he had the Jets in the background, so he had a place to go. So that's a little bit different. I don't really hear anything about Belichick wanting to go anywhere else. It's not even on the table. But let me start with Ryan, right? Do you think Bill would do that? You think Bill, if Kraft went to him and said, hey, you know what, Bill, you're kind of overwhelmed with the personnel. You coach, we'll give you the players. We'll have somebody else decide on the players. I don't think he'll do it.
I personally don't think so either. But I've heard guys on the radio talk about maybe consider if he still gets paid the same salary that he is now, which is ridiculous in itself. Maybe he'd be like, all right, fine, whatever, and just kind of go with it. But I think he either wouldn't do it or he would do it in a begrudging fashion to a point where it's still detrimental to the team in a way. Like he's not going to coach as hard as he normally would. So I'm leaning towards that he wouldn't do it that way. I think he would take more of a Parcells approach. Like, if I'm going to coach this team, I want to pick my own players and such.
By the way, I wanted to tell you the other Ryan from Rochester, your other Ryan from Rochester, the Ryan from New Bedford says that he agrees with the Ryan from Rochester. Belichick is outdated. His methods, his mindset, all outdated on offense. I think has to do with my analysis that's part of his hubris. He just won't change that mindset and those methods. So the two Ryans are in agreement, Chris.
All right. So that being said, both Ryans, what's an age that you would actually say it's time to move on from coaching? This is 71 years old. Listen, I don't know if you can go past that and still have that, that kind of mentality to work that magic that you've been working when you were in your 50s and 60s. Is 71 catching up, Ryan?
I think it's more dependent on a mentality than I think it's in age. Like for example, like Andy Reid is getting up there in age too. I forgot how old he is. He's like probably in his later 60s. But you see, not only is he an offensive mind, but he's evolved. Like before, like in the Donovan McNabb days in Philly, for example. Like seemed like this big time, power run game, and then you just casually have Donovan McNabb with a big arm, and then you have T.O. on the other side. But you see him come to Kansas City, and he evolved from a scheme that fits Alex Smith to kind of incorporating what Patrick Mahomes was used to, combining the West Coast system with the air raid that he ran in college. So I'm not sure if it's more of an age thing more than it is mindset and willingness to adapt.
65, by the way, Ryan.
65, okay.
And by the way, he's got Patrick Mahomes over there. Say Brady was 15 years younger and he was getting along with Belichick. I don't care how old Belichick is, he'd be winning. All right, Ryan, we got to go to another call. We really appreciate your call, and we'll talk to you again soon.
No problem. Thanks for having me on again,
Thanks,
guys.
All right, before we go to our next caller over here, let's see, what did I do? Looks like I dumped that caller, so please call back. I did want to mention that Ryan from New Bedford says he doesn't think it has to do with age. Take a look at Dante Scarnecchia.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a one-position coach. That's a little bit easier than being maybe a head coach of, an entire team, entire personnel, and everything else. I agree. I understand what that Ryan is saying, but I just think it's a different view when you're a head coach compared to just a position coach.
All right, Nelson's in Fall River. Good evening.
Hello, gentlemen.
How's
There
it
he
going?
is.
What's on your mind? You always have an interesting take.
Another week of the Patriots fans' hopes getting dashed with another beatdown.
That about sums it up.
This is getting. Look, people should just watch the game on NFL Red Zone. It's cheaper and it's just better experience than the NFL Sunday Ticket, in my opinion.
Well, when the Patriots are getting pasted, the NFL Red Zone will go to another game. Hey, you know what Chris Santos said? We were texting back and forth. He said LMFAO. And he said how much he just enjoyed. He was enjoying watching the Patriots getting their rear end kicked. And I went to bed and I started watching his Cowboys. And they were getting beat, and I fell asleep. But I wanted to reach for the phone and say, "Hey, Chris, that was my turn to LMFAO."
Yes.
So, but at least the Cowboys didn't get pasted, But the Patriots, they just don't look like the same team at all.
No.
What are we gonna do? Are we gonna fire Bill or not?
I think we gotta can him now.
Can him.
The Patriots
Now.
need to can him
And now,
Right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell him, thank you for your services.
Thank you for all those Super Bowls, but don't let the door hit you on the way out, right?
But it's true what they say, though. You can't overstay your welcome. At some point, you have to call it a day, call it a career. He's got a lot of wins under his belt. I mean, he is a Hall of Fame coach. Don't get me wrong, but I just think he's just lost his ability to coach.
He's lost his fastball, is what you're saying.
Yeah. He's throwing now. He's not throwing the fastballs no more, guys.
I don't know. Yeah, but can't you say he never had a fastball? He only had a fastball before Brady was there. We didn't have a fastball either. All right, let's get Chris's comments. What do you think about all this, Chris?
Well, listen, I know Nelson is not a Patriot fan, and right now he's thinking, to get rid of him right now, that is not going to happen. There's no way Kraft would do that to Bill Belichick. So if it happens, maybe at the end of the year, I can probably see it. But I personally, I don't. I see them keeping Bill, and they give Bill what he wants when he wants. But there's been some articles out there, and people have seen it. Kraft's mind is turning and saying, hey, I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't like the way this is going. And me and Bill will have some serious conversations at the end of the season to right the ship, and we'll do what's best for this team. So there has already been some articles out there about that, and we'll just see how it plays out. But to fire him right now, I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, Nelson, if they fired him right now, and he's saying right now, let's make it clear, he's saying right now, who are you going to put in there?
Oh man, who would I put in there? I don't know. That's a good question. Look, it was only wishful thinking on my part, but I will say this. Dallas getting beat, the Patriots getting beat. Another team that is disgusting me is the Denver Broncos. Not too long ago, they lost in a very horrible fashion. Blown out. And to me, I grew up watching Elway and all them, Terrell Davis, the winning days of Denver.
Mm-hmm.
And, Shannon Sharp said it loud and clear that he was embarrassed by the showing with the Denver Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's things need to change with these teams.
Your team is what? The Jets?
No, wait a minute. Nelson, aren't you a New York fan? Are you a Giants and Jets fan?
Yes, I am a New Yorker. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So forget the Denver Broncos. Let's talk about the New York Giants. What is wrong with them?
Look, my hands ain't clean with this, all right? There's problems everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, let me just tell you, Sunday, November 26th, the New England Patriots will be traveling to New York to take on the Giants. So you make sure you call that week.
Oh, God.
The Battle of the Cellar Dwellers. All right, Nelson. Hey, thank you very much for the call. We always appreciate it.
You guys have a great night.
All right, Nelson from Fall River, 774-762-6234. Give us a call here, Santos on Sports. Michael A. Gamali says, okay, fire Bill, but depends on who you would replace him with. If you had somebody good to replace him with, there was some talk about Harbaugh coming over, well, not that he would come, but I'm saying somebody suggested a name like that. Like if you're going to get rid of Belichick, I don't know if you can just throw in like Gerard Mayo or something like that. I mean, don't you need a big game or a big name kind of coach that has some experience?
You could, unless you thought that, hey, this is a guy in our system who's going to be the next Belichick or going to be the next, good coach, and you take a shot with him and want to get him in there, as we've seen, some of these other good teams have done, like San Fran and a couple of more. So, they could go in the younger generation and say, hey, it's time for a big change, and this is what we're going to do. So I'm not saying, Mayo has no shot, but he's a Patriot and he's been Patriot. So that might be something that they look at as well as some other coaches who might be out there and saying, hey, I need to make my change. I need to make my switch.
Well, we joked about it a few moments ago, but after the Patriots got pasted in the afternoon, the big game of the week was the Dallas Cowboys and the 49ers. And I got to tell you, I was looking at that game and I'm like, hey, the Cowboys wiped the floor with the Patriots, but the 49ers might be the best team in the league, talent-wise, the way everything's come together, even with the quarterback. I mean, everything really, really is clicking right now.
Yep.
And the coach is doing a great job, and he's been to the Super Bowl before they lost, but he's got experience. And, of course, it's the family. His father was a great coach as well, as we all know. And the 49ers defeated the Cowboys. And I got to tell you, the Cowboys didn't look too good. Dak Prescott, I don't know. He really didn't rise to the occasion. So what's going on with the Cowboys? I mean, you don't want to go into the playoffs sort of like Jekyll and Hyde like they've been.
Okay, Paul, you ready for this?
Yes, I am.
All right. We got beat on all phases of the game. We're on to the Chargers next week.
And that's it. We're on to Cincinnati.
No, we're on to the Chargers next
Yeah, no,
week.
I remember that when Belichick.
So this is my comment. We got beat on all phases of the game, and we're on to the Chargers next week.
I'm watching that game. I'm saying, well, just about 5 hours ago, Chris was he was just dancing on the grave of the Patriots fans, right? And just enjoying you've been listening to this for 20 years, right? So he's watching the Patriots get slaughtered, and he's just having a great day. And then 4 or 5 hours later, he's like, oh, jeepers, here we go again with the Cowboys.
Yep, drops us to 3-2, and Philadelphia leading my division. So right now you have to say San Fran and Philadelphia are the two teams to beat in the NFC, and you would have to think Kansas City and Buffalo, Miami right now in the AFC seem to be the teams that are a step above everybody else. Simple as that.
Well, Travis Kelce got banged up, so hopefully he'll be back if you're a Kansas City player. I mean, obviously they lost Tyreek Hill for the long game, but they've got some other players there. But, Kelce, I mean, this guy, when he's in there, he's like Gronkowski. I mean, you can't really do anything. I mean, the first 5 yards, right, he just pushes off and gets open, and he's so big and strong. And, he's a great, great weapon for Kansas City. So from the Kansas City point of view, number one, you don't want to see him injured. And number two, you don't want to see him distracted by his personal life. You know what I mean? That whole personal life thing, that was getting a little annoying last week.
It's been annoying for a couple of weeks. And unfortunately, I hope that moves on very quickly. They play tonight, as a matter of fact. They have
Is your daughter a Swiftie?
No.
Okay, good. Because for some reason, especially young women, they absolutely love her music. And obviously she's very talented. But, just wondering, if you hear.
That's great. That's great. Stick to music. Leave the NFL alone. Remember, Paul, the NFL stands for not for ladies. No. I'm just kidding. Don't take that seriously.
774-762-6234.
Just kidding. We always laugh, say, hey, it's not for ladies. Nope.
Right.
Listen, they're putting on a nice show. She's got concerts, she's got movies, she's promoting herself. NFL's helping her out. Travis Kelce's helping her out. And so right now it seems to be the attraction that's been going on for the last couple of weeks. And Swiftie people love it and others don't. So it depends on what side you're on. That's all that is.
Well, yeah, you're watching a football game and they keep cutting away to the luxury box there. And it's like, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? That's fine. Of course, they're doing it because, hey, anything for ratings, right? There are some people that like to see what's going on and stuff like that. But here's the thing, right? Okay, let's say he's like head over heels in this situation, right? Mm-hmm. You know how that works for people like you and I that have been around, right? It's sort of like, at the very beginning of a relationship, it's kind of like, your head spinning and stuff like that. Might it affect as a play on the field? I don't think,
no, that I don't believe so.
Okay, all right.
No, I think he's hyped up enough to overcome that. That shouldn't be an
but wait
issue.
a minute. Remember when Jessica Simpson was up in the box over there, and every time Tony Romo played and she was up there, they get beat. It was like me being in the stands.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can look at it if Kelce was, losing every game, because remember now Tony was a quarterback, so high profile position, it was a little bit different. But if Mahomes, let's say it was Mahomes and not Kelce, and it was that situation, a lot of attention would be focused toward him. And if he had a bad game, the first thing they would say was, "Hey, is it because of this?" So, but even one of our callers, Butch, Paul, his daughter don't watch football. Next thing you know, she finds out about Taylor Swift. Hey, Dad, put the game on. I want to see Taylor Swift. And so even she came home and sat down next to him, and he's looking at her like, what's going on here? That's why she wanted to watch the game.
Oh, see that? Yeah, they're they're no dummies over there. If they can put these things together and get people
It's
watching.
a reality TV show. Now it's even going into sports.
Hey, by the way, we didn't get a call from Chicago. I thought we were going to get a call from Chicago tonight. If you're looking in from Chicago, give us a call. Mark's out there. I know Butch. We hear from Butch on occasion. So if you're out there, give us a call, or anybody else who'd like to chime in at 774-762-6234. We're talking football, and we'll continue to talk about anything you'd like. But I have to say, I put the Bruins on last night, and the Bruins have a couple of young players there. They pronounce the name Poitras, I believe it is, the Matt Poitras we say around here. He looked really good. I thought he was great. Lucic even looked good, even though he was skating like he, was in quicksand, but he was making some plays. And the defenseman there, he looked good too. So I got to tell you, I mean, it was against Chicago Blackhawks. It's one game, but it was nice seeing the Bruins out there. And I love those Bobby Orr uniforms, by the way. Wearing white at home too, man. I thought I was watching the game back in 1972.
Yeah, and at the beginning, they had the 100 years celebration ceremony. That was awesome. All the old players came out, Bobby Orr, Sanderson, Johnny Busick, and then, of course, they had Neely out there and quite a few more with Tim Thomas and everybody else. But listen, the Bruins lost Krejci, lost Bergeron, and got rid of Bertuzzi. Jim Montgomery sat back and said, hey, listen, this is my team. I play young players. I am putting them in this lineup. And that's what he's going to do. And so now with Coyle, with Marchand and DeBrusque, comes back with Zacha, with Pasternak on one side. He's got this kid Poitras, third line. Kiki's in there. Beecher's in there. You add a little veteran leadership and toughness with Lucic, and you go from there. So, they still have Olmark and Swayman. What you have on defense, I get it. This is not a bad – they're not going to go from, I don't think, personally, going to win as much as they did maybe last year. But at the same time, I don't think they're going to the bottom of their division either. So some of these people out here in the social media, and like Felger and Maz and a couple of – they had them already get rid of Olmark, get rid of his contract. This is going to be a horrible year. And they're already really sticking it to him, Paul. I was kind of surprised by that because I don't think the Bruins are that bad. I really don't. They're a young team, and I like the way young kids go out and play. Chicago's going through the growing pains just as much. Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, here comes the new generation, got some young kids in there. And then you got, obviously, this young stud coming up, Connor Bedard, and what he's going to show you. And, of course, I thought, having him back-to-back nights, he played Pittsburgh the night before, the Bruins both on TV. So they're really hyping this young kid. But I thought the Bruins played a typical Boston Bruins 3-1 victory.
All right, and that's what we like. We're off to a good start at 1-0. Of course, the season is very young. And conversely, the Celtics, right, they are, not in the regular season yet, but I've seen enough of them to look at this team, and I'm saying, wow, they got a lot of good pieces here, right? Okay, Porzingis is in there as long as he can stay healthy. Of course, you got the Brown and Tatum combination, of course, that every year they get a little bit more mature, a little bit more experience, right? Getting into the prime of their careers, into that mid to late 20s. Then, of course, you throw in Holiday, which was a great trade. And how about our boy Pritchard, who for some reason was buried last year? He looked fantastic the other night. Now, again, it's obviously it's not a regular season game. Obviously, it is an exhibition game. But he was out there hitting everything. And I know he's not going to be really your best defensive player, right? He's a little bit of a liability on defense. But if you can bring him in and get that spark off the bench, right? I like this combination of players that they have right now. And it's going to be fun to see if it comes together.
Oh, absolutely. And it was really nice that the first game, they played most of the starters. The second game, it was more bench players. And in the third game, they had a little mixture of both starters and bench players. But that being said, Paul, they signed Pritchard to a pretty nice contract for a kid that was, on the bench a lot more last year than we thought that he would be playing more. So to get him involved, and as you said, he's always been that kind of spark. That's something that, offense looks sluggish. It's not going the way they want it to go. Let's get this kid in there and pop some threes. Let's get something that they feel comfortable with. So they're hoping that's what they're going to get out of him this year with these guys.
Yeah, we always liked him. I mean, he was a guy that you said he comes off the bench and starts hitting those threes, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
it's a spark.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And if he can, make some good assists, get the points when he needs to, and just go along with the flow. It doesn't have to be a superstar, just enough that, you're getting what you get. And so he's already had 17 points, a couple of preseason games, and, they're liking what they see out of him. So they did something about it.
Okay, Mark from Chicago. You're on Santos on Sports.
Oh, geez, I'm like, who is this? I'm outside at my football practice.
Oh,
Well, hey, thanks for having me, guys.
I just couldn't go another Santos on Sports without chatting with Mr. Guarantee after these last 2 weeks of the Patriots debacle.
Wow, well, hey, are we live? I don't even know what time
Yes, we
it is.
are. We're live.
Oh, we're live. Don't worry. We're live.
Hey, listen, I jumped off the train. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm looking over here at the prediction: 10 wins.
Now, listen, I was watching a show the other day, and they went through this, and at the end of the day, there's still 6 or 7 wins that they should get, which get you to 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, listen, I can't. This is going to be this week. Are they going to beat the Raiders or not? If they lose to the Raiders, forget it. They'll win 3 games, 4 games tops.
All right, what do you think is going to happen in this game against the Raiders?
Honestly, I think the Raiders are going to win.
All right, so now we have a chance. The Patriots have a chance. He's predicting this. All you have to do is guarantee a Raiders win, and then we have a shot. And I'll stay away from this.
I apologize to you guys and your viewers because I wasn't prepared for this. I thought it was somebody else calling me, so
Yeah,
on the spot. And I didn't hear the rest of the show. But listen, you've said it, Paul. Chris has said it, and I've said it numerous times. Like the way he's run the team post Brady, like you can't do the same things. But I'm telling you, I've been so frustrated. And I know you listen to the press conferences.
Oh, yeah.
He might be worse than he ever has been. And I listened to yesterday's press conference where they asked about Jacoby Myers. And I'm waiting for these guys to ask a more direct question like, hey, Bill, do you think that was a bad decision? But I heard and maybe you saw it as well. They said, hey, Jacoby Myers, like you let him in. And he's like, well, he was a free agent. Free agents switch teams all the time. And I'm sitting there going, is that the biggest BS answer to that question I've ever heard?
All right, do you think they should fire him?
Yeah, Mark, what do you do? What are you thinking they do with Bill if this season continues to go down and they only win a couple of games?
But, listen, the Patriot way, right? And Bill's been great about this, is cutting bait after the time is over, right? And you always see other teams give contracts to players for what they've done in the past. That's not the Patriot way. However, I think that is the way with Bill, because I think the way things are going right now, and there's almost a mutiny. If you watch last week's game, there were some times like Trent Brown looked like he wasn't even trying out there. And I think the message that Bill's sending, it's not being received anymore. So there's enough things going on right now that in a different situation, a different team, he's the first coach fired. I don't think Kraft has the gumption to do that. And I don't know that it's because of everything that Bill's meant to the team. I just don't know that Kraft's ready to make that move. What seems more likely, and I know everybody's saying it, is that at the end of the season, hey, Bill, we're bringing somebody in. And then maybe at that point, Bill says, all right, enough's enough. I don't want to deal with that. And he leaves on his own. But I can't see him getting fired. I think he deserves to be fired. I think the smugness that he's dealing with, with these media reporters, I'm done with it. I'm over with it. Now, I will tell you, I've changed my tune a little bit on Mac. I mean, I've said in the past, Mac's a decent quarterback, maybe average, but decent, and you can win with him. And I'm going, hey, but they don't got any weapons. They don't have an offensive line. But I'm more and more each day on the side of Mac ain't that guy. I'm sitting here going, let's compare Mac to Jared Goff. Jared Goff is not a gunslinger like Mahomes or Herbert or Josh Allen. He went to the Super Bowl with the Rams. he had a good supporting cast. Then he comes to the Lions, who I would tell you, they've got a lot of weapons and they've got a good team. And he's doing well. So could Mac Jones be Jared Goff?
Well, let me ask Chris a question, right? We have noticed that, hey, the kid's got no offensive line. He's got no weapons. They got rid of his favorite player, Jacoby Myers. I'm watching the game. Even when I was at Dallas, I was watching all, 22 to try to see if I could see what was going on out there. Players are hardly open. But, Chris, isn't it true that when they are open, right, they're open on occasion. They're not open most of the time, and he's running for his life most of the time. But when they are open, he misses them.
Well, yeah, and I think that's one. And I think the second one is I question his arm strength. I don't think it's as good as, people might think that it is. Now, he might be as accurate as can be, even though he's been missing players, but he was accurate, in college. So I question the arm strength more than anything else. And obviously the mobility to get out. He made 2 throws against Dallas. That was a mentality thing that you just don't throw back across the field. You don't do that. That's like backyard football when I used to throw to Mark at Dartmouth High School. And I used to throw back to him to make catches. You can't do that in the NFL.
I had sure hands, and you made those throws.
Well, that's the difference, right? I had the arm strength.
Guys, I apologize for missing the whole call and you sneaking me in here at the end. I appreciate it. But you tell me, the 2 of you guys, and I'm sure Ryan and Butch and several other guys have called, what's the consensus? Do people think Belichick's going through the year? He's going to get fired. He should get fired. He's going to get – because I don't know. Do you guys think he gets fired in season? I don't.
No, I don't think he would get fired.
We've had a few people say right now. We've had a few people say at the end of the year. I don't
count the guy from Fall River, though, the Giants fan from Fall River.
Yeah, he called.
He said right now.
He said fire him right now.
Right now. Yeah, there was a couple that said wait to the end of the year.
Guys, when you look at the rest of the schedule, and again, they have played like crap, and they've given you nothing in these last 2 weeks to tell you they can beat anybody. But tell me Washington's not winnable. The Raiders isn't winnable. Denver's not winnable. The Giants, they've got teams they should beat. However, with what you've seen, I see nothing that says they can beat those teams. I'm sitting here going, how about Malik Cunningham? Let's try that guy.
Well,
because I can tell you, what we do know, Paul, it ain't Zappy.
Yeah, Zappy, he overthrew Henry terrible. Like, Hunter Henry was wide open, and he overthrew him. Then there was another play where the wide receiver was wide open, overthrew him, and I'm thinking, gee, Zappy isn't even looking that great. So my Zappy fever has broken. But I want to make sure I heard this right. Don't change your mind. You're saying that Las Vegas is going to beat the Patriots. Is that right?
I would be shocked if they beat Vegas.
All right, so I'm going to put down that Mr. Guarantee says that Vegas is going to win, and then we'll see what happens. All right, Mark, thank you very much.
All right, hey, I appreciate you calling me, and I apologize. You caught me off guard. Hey, Chris, when I kept getting this number, I thought it was Warden. I answered the phone, and I hung up.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right, we'll see you guys. Thanks.
All right, you just gave away my secret here. I wanted to get Mr. Guarantee on so bad that when you were talking, I called him because sometimes he tries to call, and I only have one line, so sometimes I see people calling. I wasn't sure if he tried to call earlier, so I said, you know what? I just have to hear Mr. Guarantee. The show is just not complete without hearing Mr. Guarantee after these 2 terrible weeks of the Patriots.
Well, sometimes, Paul, you just don't have what you think you have. And personally, myself, I don't see them getting any better. And I think the Raiders, on the road in Vegas, I think it will be tough for them. And I think the Vegas Raiders win this game.
All right, we got another comment here from Ryan from New Bedford, and it's exactly what we were talking about.
Yep.
He says that he saw a stat online the other day about the Patriots receivers. The average separation for an NFL wide receiver is 2 to 3 yards. The average separation for the Pats receivers this season has been about 1.5 yards. So the translation is Dak is making bad throws, but the receivers aren't open too.
Right, and what's going to happen, Paul, is all these great people out there in the media are going to do a lot of stats on the New England Patriots when they never had to in the past because it wasn't there. But now when you're losing and you're really that bad, that's what they're going to do. And they're going to come up with every stat that they can find. How long does he get the ball out of his hand? How long did it take for him to drop back in the pocket? How long is the offensive line holding up? How many yards from scrimmage are they getting, from their running backs? That's just going to be happening all year long because it's not the New England way. They're not used to this. They're trying to find answers. We have the answers. We know, everybody knows, they don't have the stars anywhere on that team. Simple as that.
All right, it's been a fun show. A lot of cooperation, a lot of calls on the line, a lot of comments. We really appreciate that. It makes it so much fun when we can get different perspectives from the folks out there, and it makes the show so much more fun. So we appreciate the support. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street, Fall River, Citywide Glass with 3 locations to serve you in Dartmouth, Fall River, and Taunton, Lakeville Athletic Club in Lakeville, and John Seed, Attorney at Law. And you can catch all of the information on John at johnseedlaw.com. We want to thank the people who commented: Don Andrews, Lee Toon, Barry Thompson, Ryan Pavo, who called and typed in,
Yes.
Dave Downs, Derek DePont, who says he will not get fired, Michael Tyler Venafro, thank you very much for chiming in, Barry Thompson, Mickey Rockwood, CJ Rodericks, Barry Thompson, Johnny Durant, Gus Barboza, and let's see, I don't want to leave anybody out. Michael Gamali, thank you very much for commenting here today. And the people that called, Mike from Fall River, a new caller, thank you very much. Call again. Ryan from New Bedford, Ryan from Rochester, and Nelson from Fall River. So, good cooperation today, Chris. We had an absolute blast today.
Yeah, and a lot of fun. You know what? We could keep going for another hour if we could, but we'll do it again next week. I'm off to Bridgewater Raynham tomorrow night. The Whalers and the Trojans go at it in Bridgewater. How about you, Paul? You got the Indians?
Yes, actually, I got Dartmouth against Durfee, and the way that's looking, Dartmouth, they got a lot of great players. I knew last year that they would beat this year because, it was all juniors and sophomores for the most part. And that you coached before. If juniors and sophomores are out there, the next year there's seniors and juniors with experience. So things are really coming together for Coach White over there. I see a relatively easy win for Dartmouth tomorrow.
I'll tell you, the one that I'm looking forward to, and unfortunately, I'll be calling another game. I can't wait for Dartmouth Fairhaven on Thanksgiving morning.
Yes.
Because Fairhaven's another one that's having a tremendous season. That could be a classic on a Thanksgiving morning.
100%. And Barry Thompson is saying, have a good night, Paul. Okay, well, we can wish you all a very good night. And I'd like to thank Chris. Hey, great show today.
Hey, Paul, thanks. It was a pleasure as usual. And everybody out there, thanks for calling in. Thanks for chatting in as well. Let's do it again next week, Paul. And hopefully these same guys will call us back. We'll have some new topics. And whether it's football, whether it's basketball, hockey, baseball, we'll get it all done.
Hey, remember, Mr. Guarantee says the Raiders are going to win that game. So if the Patriots win that game, oh boy, this is going to be great. I haven't kept his record. Mr. Guarantee's record is about the same as me going to games. You know what I mean?
Well, the good part is he has your number, so when he sees it now, he's not going to get all worked up and all nervous. He'll go, I know what this one's about.
All right. Well, thanks again for Chris Santos. I'm Paul Santos for Santos on Sports. Have a great night, and thank you for calling. Good night.